Welcome to Enara. It's a pleasure to have you here today. How's it going?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
In
This will be fun.
which part of the world are you? Because I know that you're always traveling.
Yeah, always on the move, building the metaverse. Currently based in DC, but getting ready for Art Basel in Miami next week.
I hope I was there too, but it will be for next time. You know, my FOMO for missing events is very hard. Anyway, Enara, we met few days ago and we started talking about education, digital fashion, all things that you really care about. And I would love to share with the people that are here, that are watching or listening, what are you building? How we can keep building together because we I think we had some plans for the future. Maybe of some of them we still cannot really receive, but we can. I would really just to give you the shot and intro in which you can start sharing with me what is that you are doing is contributing to build the future of the metaverse, of creators economy, or maybe also of a cities, of a new civilization, because this is what we are doing in crypto right now, right? We are building systems that enables us to rebuild society as we saw until now. So that's what I want to do, like, and the outcome, the output for this show and everything we're doing is building this together. Me, you, the audience that is here, that it's not just a audience, but can be active collaborators in what we're doing. So please, you can start and we can build on this.
Of course. I mean, wow, what a time to be alive. I don't know if there's ever been an opportunity before now for you to be able to simulate realities, simulate solutions, build them, prototype them in virtual spaces, take those learnings, implement them in real environments. I feel so excited by the fusion between virtual and physical realities and what that playground can offer us. So I work at the intersection of fashion, tech, and education. I have a media company that essentially educates people about the opportunities in the digital fashion space. How can self-expression in the metaverse become a really interesting career opportunity for a lot of artists, creators who have previously needed to consider careers in physical industries only, like let's say fashion, becoming a designer and having like your own product line. So what does it look like to be able to provide experiences and products in virtual spaces? And the fashion tech aspect of the product that I'm building is focusing on customization. How can you offer people the opportunity to make objects their own and be able to essentially do what we do as teenagers in our bedroom, like decorate our room and leave imprints of our personality and like, explore that in the space that's given to us, and how can virtual objects fill the same interest in virtual spaces?
Okay, okay, awesome. So we can start from this. So as you know, I'm building the metaverse for real. Like I'm working in Somnium, so we're building the metaverse with all the technologies that enable this. So on the first step, that I think is what you're most passionate about is fashion. Also, if you're building something at the intersection of fashion, tech, and education, I know that what you love the most is fashion. Don't lie to me. So. Uh, how we can do something together in terms of fashion. What are you looking for? What's your next step in building what you're building now in fashion for the metaverse and everything that is coming there together?
Well, if you were to distill what do artists, designers, fashion designers are trying to create, they are really world builders. Like they are trying to create a mood, a setting, a feeling that you want to feel when you're wearing a garment. And the metaverse is a world that people are able to inhabit, that they're able to step inside of. And the most powerful tool I think that we're given as humans is the power to imagine a different solution, imagine something creative, be able to share something that a vision that you've had yourself and be able to share that with the world. I think designers have been very much trapped or even constrained by the business that is currently the fashion industry. I think a lot of it has become more like an industrial complex, which is less about creativity and more about the bottom line or maybe numbers. So the creativity kind of faded into the background. So when I look at fashion, I thought it has been a bit stuck in its ways. The industry hasn't changed all that much over the last 100 years. And right now, there's a really beautiful opportunity to incorporate this opening that we're seeing in the virtual space and how that can recreate, create, and also reinvent the way that fashion operates from its foundation, how fashion is created, who gets to wear it, what is the longevity of these assets, how can it help with the reinvention of the physical supply chain, how can it unlock creativity for people based anywhere outside of like top fashion capitals like New York, London, Paris, Tokyo, and just democratize fashion for the people.
Okay. Okay. So I'm sure that you've been in all the cities that you mentioned, maybe 10 times at least.
I've not been to Tokyo yet, so that's definitely a dream.
What are you waiting? Like, where is the next event in Tokyo?
Hey, I think as soon as the pandemic is officially over, I'm going to be there.
Oh, for sure. So, okay, let's try to define the ecosystem. So, which are the main players right now into this? What do you feel to be more comfortable working with? Which are the main players in terms of big fashion houses or maybe little ones that are growing now? And what are you doing right now? So, what if and also like, are you trying to be a sort of for sure for your passion and energy? Are you trying to be a sort of platform for all these companies and all these projects together? You're putting yourself in the middle of this situation. Is yes? Please define me more about this ecosystem.
Well, the cool thing is that everybody is a player. The big brands, the recent graduates from universities, somebody who's had 50 years of experience, somebody who is just starting off. Like the metaverse seems to be a pretty democratized space in terms of who can get started in it. Brands, I think, are trying to figure out how can they adapt what they already have and the value that they possess in the physical world, and how can that translate in virtual spaces. Younger designers, I think, are just pushing the envelope in terms of what is even recognized as fashion. Like, what does it mean to wear fashion in virtual spaces, what it can look like, simply because, the canvas is now limitless. Instead of having to source very unique special fabrics from far corners of the world, you get to envision them and recreate them in a piece of software. So I think the skill set is also starting to change around what does it mean to be a designer. Before, it may have been scissors, needle and thread, and a piece of fabric. Now it's software. So there's this really interesting pivot in terms of fashion, redefining how and what it is able to create. And for me, I'm very interested in becoming a facilitator of experiences that are also kind of pushing the envelope of what does it mean to wear fashion virtually.
Okay, and which are the main players, like in terms of companies right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I think Vogue for a very long time has been at the helm of what it means, what is newest and latest and greatest in fashion. So there's a lot of coverage of luxury brands like Gucci, Balenciaga, Nike, Adidas. There's a lot of players that are trying to essentially take their existing brand value into the metaverse by creating games like Balenciaga or filters like Gucci, where they partnered with WannaKicks to be able to virtualize shoes. Nike has been at the forefront of designing shoe wear. So I think they've also have allocated an entire department that focuses on the metaverse element of their brand. But then there's also recent graduates that just left, universities, and instead of having to get a loan to start their brand or study under a famous designer before they're qualified to start their own brand, they just released virtual assets that they're selling as NFTs. One example is Ouroboros. They are a duo of two female creative directors from London that are just taking the world by storm and really creating otherworldly, beautiful dresses.
Awesome. So, there is something that is catching me a lot more attention is about because you define for the first time that there is a need of creating the feeling of actually wearing this. So of course it's very complete. The only way right now that comes in my mind is, since we partnered with Tesla, we partner with Tesla suite, so a full body haptic skin suite that lets you feel the touch of what you're feeling in VR. But this is for example, if I touch you or if I shoot you, if we're playing like a shooting game. But in terms of feeling, do you have some news about some kinds of technology that is existing already or that is about to be created, and how you can recreate this kind of feeling of having your favorite garment? Because like there was a person that I know that told me uh, garments, of course, clothes is the object most intimate to us. So it's something that w- we actually care about for this reason. So, at which kind of level are we in order to recreate this in the metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, after working in tech for several years, the word "feel" hasn't been, the most important word that you would bring up when you're trying to discuss a product. Usually, it was about metrics and numbers and how something measures up to something. In marketing, it is a lot more important. Like, how does this message make you feel? But when it comes to fashion, it's all about how something feels, whether it's physically, how a fabric feels, to the way that you feel in terms of your mood and your stance and how confident you feel. So this merger between tech being a discipline that enables an experience and fashion, which is all about aesthetics and how something designed, this convergence, I think, is incredibly powerful. So when it comes to evoking a feeling, it has to do with the intention behind the design, who designed it, the story behind the garment, which ecosystem it exists within. And when it comes to experiencing it, AR, I think, has been a very important tool for being able to actually visualize fashion. I mean, fashion is an incredibly visual medium to begin with. It's also a very tactile medium. So in the physical world, it really matters what type of fabrics and what you're able to decorate yourself with in the physical reality. But as soon as you cross over to virtual, it's all that feeling is taken away. So you can no longer rely on the sensation that you will get from physical feedback, and you have to then supplement that with the story component of the garment. And until recently, even Snapchat hasn't had the technology to do full body tracking until December 2021. So this innovation to be able to actually view the garment and have it be anchored on you is quite recent. What you mentioned about the Tesla suit, I think it's still quite cost prohibitive for most people to be able to either get a Tesla suit or the Rococo suit or Xsense, kind of the price tag keeps going up. So there is the future where this haptic technology will become democratized and you may one day be able to actually feel the garment on you. But for now, the primary method of communication is through narrative and story around the object, and then also its visual appeal, how beautiful it looks and how unique it is versus what you're able to see in the physical space.
Oh, that's amazing. So it's a visual feeling. That's what we're trying to recreate. That's so
And
important.
the kicker is I'm a huge fan of Dr. Carolyn Mayer's work. She's a behavioral psychologist that studies fashion and how fashion actually impacts us. And she said that there is a concept called dopamine dressing, which is the feeling that you get from putting on a garment on yourself. And the cool thing is that fast fashion has been supplying that aspect of our psyche for quite a while by giving you the fastest way to access a garment that's poorly made, however, will still kind of give you that same feeling of the image you're trying to create. And now virtual fashion can deliver that even faster because it is accessible online, and being able to perceive yourself, even in a reflection or in a photo, gives you that same dopamine rush that you would otherwise get buying a fast fashion garment.
I absolutely agree. Like you're making me think of like when I'm in VR and I'm wearing my avatar, I can actually see out my hands. I can actually see out my legs of what I'm wearing. I like I'm excited to see this. Like I don't even think about, oh, that's a good garment. Like that's comfy for me. Like I just think about how cool is it that I can wear this. In fact, I think that the trigger happens when and this is why I think I was making a mistake before about asking about the garment. It's not about the garment anymore when you are in virtual. That's not what you care about, but it's about wearing things that otherwise you will never be able to wear. For example, there are some people, some avatars in Somnium that people wear like incredible lighting avatars of whole strange with different shadows, like colors, rainbows colors, or maybe bigger than the usual size. So you can really shape different kinds of garments of let's say I don't really call them garments. I will call them dress. So that's the trigger, right? That you can feel something that you have felt before in a way, but you can perceive it in another way because it's just cool to have something dressing that I don't think that neither Lady Gaga can wear it. So it's something that so strange. So okay, awesome. So in terms of fashion, I guess that we've got the feeling. So I would love now, since we are building the education district of this city in the metaverse, I would love to if you can let me know more how you are bridging fashion and education. What exactly does it mean? Because I don't know how you're doing. So please tell me more.
Of course. I mean, I have been very grateful to have had amazing teachers in my life. And there is something very special about a teacher who is very passionate about their subject matter. Like you fall in love with the subject and develop an interest for something because somebody loves this thing you're trying to study in front of you. They kind of instill the desire to learn more within you. And I think not everybody is lucky to encounter somebody like that. So the internet allowed us to essentially put out a call to the world by saying, if you're interested in this topic, please join me and let us all kind of lean into this topic and subject matter together. So I really love bringing in experts to have them share their stories as practitioners, either as academics or as founders of companies or as designers, and share what does it mean to actually create for the metaverse, to inspire different business model solutions, to instill or maybe facilitate collaborations. So the medium I currently use is primarily through Clubhouse, which is essentially the most interactive style podcast I could find. It is in a way a mini metaverse, an audio metaverse, where you're able to interact with people on demand whenever you'd like. And I think it's also through conversations like this where we're able to demystify a little bit of what does it take to actually be within this field and inspire others to actually pursue this vertical. Because about a year ago, this technically wasn't an industry. This was more of like a side project that some people worked on. Maybe it's like for gaming only, but now the conversation with companies like Facebook rebranding into the metaverse, Forte raising $725 million to build a gaming metaverse platform, Niantic, Apple, Google, like there's so many companies that are essentially betting on this place that legitimized and instilled a deeper interest in people to learn more about the subject matter, the software that it takes, the processes you can build. So I'm very excited to see the curiosity in people who want to learn more.
Yeah, awesome. So that's one side of education. So it means that you are spreading awareness around what is happening and what you're doing into this field. And also talking about like classic education. So for example, how can you are you interested in bring, or if maybe you already read it, like in bringing what you're doing into into universities? I thought I said metaversities. Maybe it could be, maybe we
That's
just
a term.
yeah, that's a term. Maybe we just created. Please don't steal us. We're gonna make an NFT of this term. So, so,
TM.
so metaversities, schools, and this kind of so institutions. Let's say, how can you bring the knowledge of the metaverse through your tools, through what you're doing in fashion into the schools? You already did it. You want to do it in the future, and how we can do it together.
Yeah, so I think the number one objective and challenge that institutions will have for themselves is moving at the speed of the metaverse, because things that are developing within the metaverse are changing on a daily basis. And the way that curriculum is currently developed is that it takes several months, sometimes years, to actually approve the curriculum before it reaches students to be able to teach them. But now, I think if you start to treat institutions as facilitators by bringing in practitioners who are real-time building these solutions and have the latest knowledge in terms of what people are able to build, that reframing of who gets to teach and who is willing to provide the platform is, I think, what's going to be the future of, like you mentioned, a metaversity that is giving you access to knowledge at the speed of knowledge.
Oh, that's a great challenge. How can we give to schools the speed of the metaverse? Because that's exactly the problem. Like that's the problem with institutions and with everything that is too much regulated. Like that you need to go on a lot of layers of bureaucracy. But while for me, like being part of this tech team, I see that there are 2 or 3 updates, big updates per week. So what was true and real, let's say the week before, it can be completely changed to an update or to a bug fixed the week later. So, and that's a question that we don't have an answer right now, I guess. Maybe it will take my whole life to answer this question, but how can we enable institutions to, and I'm not saying that it's a choice, like I really think that they need, because if we are shaping the jobs of the future, you will be able to follow the jobs of the future, because I don't know how many institutions right now teach you to create an avatar ready for the metaverse that you can wear on an Ethereum blockchain while you're driving a car into the metaverse. So that's not actually what we are building, I guess. So let's think about it. What can we do?
Well, I think for the longest time, before institutions were institutions, people learned through apprenticeship. you would have a master, somebody who knows a skill, and he will take on students who will then follow his work, look at what he's doing, develop their own style and their own voice, and then go out into the world and create more work. So I think that is what we're trying to kind of come back to, is inviting the masters, putting them at the front and center of the subject matter, allowing them to attract students that are interested or curious about the topic, and give them the tools and opportunities to actually showcase their work and develop their own styles. So I think institutions have very much adapted to the industrial revolution model, where specific industries that were very instruction based really benefited from repetitive instruction. Once you've developed the instructions, you can keep giving them to more and more people, and through that process you created consistency. And now, because innovation is at the core of developing competitive products, it's more important to have access to the best and most recent knowledge than it is to foundational knowledge. So I think the good thing is that there's no scarcity of teachers and people that are practitioners. So it's about just adapting to actually valuing this as one of the most important aspects of continuing to teach, and using your facilities, institutions, your reach, even online, to be able to attract those teachers and then facilitate environments where students can learn at a faster pace.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that like that's what we need. Like for sure, practice. It's what we need. But in order to enable institutions to push more on practice, what do you think that we should provide more resources, technologies, or people? Like, what do you think? What do you think it's more important? Because of course, all of the three of them are important, and I think there are also other aspects important that maybe now I'm not thinking about. But I would say, how would you enter exactly into these barriers of institutions? Say, hey, like if you are the startup of education and say, hey, I've got this, and this is critical for you. Like that's the price, or maybe this is free. Also, maybe because this could be a donation for education. Like, so what do you think it's in terms of a roadmap should be more important between these three resources, people or technology?
I think it is about, I think most universities already have the technology and the labs and the tools within their institutions, and what they need is more residency programs that are attractive to practitioners who either want to continue their work under the umbrella of the institution, or maybe have access to students or to the technology that the university has, and inviting different practitioners within their field to come and teach, either for a long period of time or maybe for a short period of time, what they know to their student base.
I think that that's true, and in part, I think that we should create this system of freelancers inside schools, in the sense that so the good thing right now, so the ancient thing, it was like that every company has got its own creative. Now, thanks to NFTs and thanks to everything, like artists can be freelancers, but at the same time, they can work for a company. So I think that we should create something like this. So it shouldn't be that there is a class with the same teachers forever that working like this, but we should make the teacher job as a freelancer. I don't mean as a freelancer job, but I mean like for someone that okay, not anyone wants to travel like you, I know, but maybe there could be like best people in New York, like they can teach in different schools. So it should be more, it should be a less static job, in the sense that you cannot just, because also from an experience that I saw from a person that I know, like it took, especially in Italy, 20 years for this person to become I don't know how to say the right term. I think it's fixed teacher, let's say. So a teacher that is not the one that just goes around, let's say, and doesn't know if the job that she can do, it's actually remunerated in the right time, is regulated. So it's a long process that you actually strive for your entire life just to be a teacher in this place. But actually, I think that and this is one of my personal thoughts. I think that I don't mean that like education should be more privatized and just be less public, but I think that we should find an hybrid like this in which we can train the best teachers and allows the best experts from outside to come in different schools together. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that not all practitioners make good teachers. So I think that's also a very important trait to pick people that, yes, are very good in their field, but also know how to be a good educator. But just like you mentioned, like being able to reach tenure, like within your university and become this important teacher that actually has the freedom to do what they'd like, actually has almost like a backwards effect where the teacher has been within the ecosystem for so long, they may not actually have been a practitioner for several years already within their field, so their teaching and their style and their knowledge is not nearly as robust as somebody who's been out there building companies, having exits or having failures, and then bringing in that knowledge to share with the students. Because one of the most common feedbacks I've heard from people that went to university and then started their own thing is that they were being taught fundamentals that had nothing to do with the actual job. They were learning processes or things, and then when you get on a job and it's a completely different experience. So I think having direct feedback from somebody who is building the metaverse, understands the limitations, not conceptually, but actually from practice, I think is very powerful. And like you mentioned, giving you a well-rounded opportunity as a student to have access to several teachers, and for giving the teacher the opportunity to teach at multiple institutions will probably create a more robust ecosystem of knowledge sharing that can benefit everyone.
Okay, yeah. So in terms of reality, when something like this could happen, let me think. So we need to wait for sure another generation of teachers to come. But so our goal in what we're doing in education is like educating the next generation of teachers. They probably are like people of my age, your age, probably like I'm 24. So it like how we can educate this next generation of teachers. I think that is very important that while these people are still in schools, they can have 1 year to learn on a practice. At least, like, best solution it would be that every day they can learn something in practice. But let's just think for a second. One of the solutions could be that like any one of these people, they've got the opportunity to work from 1 year on what they do, what they love. So I always thought about school as a simulation of reality. Since we are talking about simulating different worlds, schools should give the opportunity or giving 1 year to children, let's say, to work on this, or maybe creating in the metaverse, what we're saying now, a sort of simulation of their job. And this is just the first part, because the second most important part is sharing what you've learned. Because I found myself learning about NFTs in February. So like right now we're in November. I didn't even know what was an NFT before February. And I found myself just doing podcasts and being in the field every day to actually make lectures to kids in a school about what's an NFT, what's the jobs of the future. So it's important that you practice and you can teach. I like so, and I had the trust from people that believed in what I'm doing, that say they didn't care about my age, my level of expertise. They just were humble enough to give me an opportunity to say, okay, like you know enough of it. You can make a 20-minute lecture. You can create a program for students to do something like this. So yeah, I do have you got something to add on it?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, what you mentioned about institutions being welcoming of practitioners, I think is really important because it is, there's no shortage of practitioners out there in the world. I'm pretty sure students would love to be able to hear from somebody like that. And it is about, I guess, on the part of the practitioner, making a compelling use case about the topic and how relevant it can be to the students and also to the institution to say, we're excited to be able to welcome somebody like you and share what you know within this format that is current, that mirrors and reflects what's actually happening and gives our students an edge to be able to be competitive in the world. I think that's really noble to be able to advocate for something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that as a next step, personally, what I should do, it will be like creating sort of laboratories in the metaverse. So from my side, I'm just thinking about in terms of steps because I want to be sure that what we can say can become immediately like something that I can work on from tomorrow, let's say, because that's the goal of the entire thing. And I remind to anyone that is listening that you've got my contacts. You will have another contact. So if you are passionate in fashion education, you can reach out to her, or if you're passionate in everything, you can reach out to me. So I need to understand one thing. So what I can focus on from tomorrow, that is, should I try to create some laboratories in the metaverse, maybe 1 hour sessions, 1 week sessions, like a sort of package that I can go to schools and say, okay, let's start with baby step. So instead of giving me your kids for 1 year, because who knows what happens, like giving them for 1 hour. So I just give them 1 hour, maybe 1 week, maybe 1 week is better. Maybe one day. Let's start with one day. One day is enough. So 1 day program. So they come to me, like I can show them, well, based on their interest, we can create different fields. So art. Let's start maybe with creative stuff. That's what I believe, because personally, what I miss the most inside school, it was creative stuff. So I couldn't be creative. I just need to learn by memory and repeat what I was learning. So let's start with creative stuff. What do you like? Do you like music? Oh, do you like Kanye West? Great. Let's try to make something. So let's use what is your passion inside the metaverse, because it's just funny to do in the metaverse. Let's just be honest. Like, it's just more funny. So also, if your classroom is very bad, it's very dark. Like, hey, you can spend some hours into this building that we create inside here, and we should let them create some activities. I wouldn't even, let's say, you make some too much guidelines for them. I like, because I think that children, they've got right now in schools guidelines every day. So maybe everything that they need is just to be free sometimes. So let's just let them free to create for one day, and let's showcase the product of this creation at the end of the day inside one of the galleries, for example, this inside Somnium, inside the metaverse. What do you think? Is it a good idea? We should start with it.
I think the container of one day is very important. I think that's a really good, I think 1 hour may be a little too short, but when you start to think of the goal is to be able to really spark somebody, like almost like when you're stoking a fire, all it takes is a little bit of dry wood and one spark to really get the fire going. So if you treat this one day as an opportunity to broaden somebody's imagination and say, if you're a musician, you may be classically trained, or maybe you have a process for how you do things. Have you considered what is your work going to look like if it were to be transformed by the virtual space? Here you are with us in a virtual space, so like you're physically and very viscerally experiencing what does it mean to be online for a short period of time, be able to connect with other people that may not even be in your zip code or even in your country. And what kind of content are you able to create through this medium? Like, how can you take your passion, what already interests you, and consider this virtual medium as a way to extend it or to transform it or to add on to it, and giving people the tools to start to imagine so that they can also have the tenacity and the desire themselves to continue down that path even after the class is over.
Oh, that's amazing. You came up with a great idea. That's like, let's say, let's say, a sort of competition between these children around the world. Like, they're in different places in different at the same time, and they can challenge themselves. And that's, of course, one of the main characteristics of gamification. So I always thought that, like, the human brain learn more when you are playing, when you are having fun. So not only you are having fun, but you're also competing with other people, and it's good competition. It's not just like killing each other. It's not just capitalism, that, like, I need to win on the other. I need to win on the other person. So yes, that could be a great point. We can enable this kind of laboratory for children one day, in which, of course, like at the beginning, you can explain some theory about them, about what is going to happen for sure. And at the end of the day, you can have your product ready. Because I think that the best academy that I ever do, and shout out to Digital Combat Academy in Italy, that is the academy that I made after university, when I dropped out university. And it was like, I had this amazing feeling that I went there and I didn't know anything about what is going to happen that day. And I came back 8 hours later that I had a product to share. Maybe it was a video, maybe it was an advertising campaign, maybe it was something. But the satisfaction of having something that you shape, that you create, something that I really needed when I was at school. I feeling myself unable to do anything. Like, what can I do? I cannot do Latin, I cannot do maths, I cannot do science. Like, so I'm unable, I cannot do anything. So that was what I was feeling. So I think that could be the result of the day. So the output. But let's just take a step back about the input from your personal side, from Enara, what you can bring to this laboratory in terms of what you're doing in fashion, I guess. What would you like to bring inside this laboratory in the metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, some of the world's top schools, fashion schools, still do not teach or have any digital components in terms of what people should know when it comes to digital capabilities. To Nobody really covers what virtual assets are. You are being taught in a very traditional sense how to become a fashion designer, and the path for a designer is very linear. It's like you graduate, you learn all of the same things with the rest of your class. Hopefully, you develop some skills and a style that is unique to you. You may join an existing brand, work under that person for X amount of years, and then maybe one day launch your own brand or become a creative director of an existing brand. Those usually have been the paths of success in the fashion industry. And I think a lot of designers deserve to be able to create things on their own terms and to have access directly to their fans without having to have intermediaries that interfere. So like if a store, for example, can, let's say like if it's a big department store, like them accepting your line is a very big validating moment for you as a designer, because now it's going to be sold in this, and distributed to the larger public, and maybe you will rise in the ranks. But if you're designing virtually and are able to publish those assets as NFTs, you just can start create community around your brand and your ethos and your aesthetic directly and as quickly as immediately sometimes. So I think being able to teach digital skills to designers is critical right now.
Yeah, for sure. It's amazing. And you mentioned another thing that is it's very critical, that is the process. Like any field, like you are into fashion, someone is into music, someone is in something else. Anyone has got a different process. And that's something more important sometimes than the output. Like I don't want students at the end of the day to have the perfect output, but I really love them to be part of the process. So it would be, I think that that's another revolution that needs to be brought inside school. So it's not just about the results, but it's about the process. And the reality, the truth is that there is no the same process for no one, because just our brain acts differently. Also, if you can give us the same kind of information from the day that we're alive to the day that we're not alive anymore, I'm sure that our brain will come up with different things, because the process is different for anyone. So I think that this is another input that we need to add as the layers. So it's to be sure that, hey, follow your thoughts, like believe in yourself, and here is to you a different patterns of process. So she's Anara, she's expert in the digital fashion, so she will tell you about what's the creative process of fashion. For example, I know that like when Kanye West, he wanted to make like the, now he's the creative head of Adidas, but before, where everything started, before making kids, is I remember that he spent some days in the fabric, in the place where they were making shoes, because the process he wanted to learn by them. And now he created $1 billion brand, one of the most famous brand in the world. So that's very important to actually see people, how they can shape what are they doing. So we can make
Mhm.
you Enara as digital head of digital fashion. Me, I don't know still what will be my role exactly. Maybe it will be the communicator, let's say. So okay, great. I'm envisioning this laboratory, and I am, wow, yeah, I'm excited. I just want to start. I think that it's enough. I don't want to melt. I will want to melt our brains more than this right now. I think that there are a lot of points to work on that I will personally start from to tomorrow. So I really now wait to see these ideas coming out of this room, of this virtual room, and taking their place into the metaverse.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's anything we can gift students that are entering school systems now, is to not ask them to conform anymore, to conform to a standard, to be exactly like something else, and like graduating students in bulks and batches that are going through the exact same curriculum, doing the exact same assignments, passing the same tests. I think be able to optimize education for the individual, I think, is the biggest challenge. And I think the metaverse is definitely positioned to help us do that.
Yeah, being original. That's the era in which we are hoping now. So it's an era based on how creative, how different you are, also sometimes how mad you are. That's important. That's
Hmm.
appreciated now. Before it wasn't appreciated. It was something like that created some issues maybe for the person that was different, let's say. But I think that we are in the era of diversity. Thanks, Nara, for for being into this brainstorm with me. And
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
and I really can't wait to keep building on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so encouraged by someone like you actually committing to education because it is the most important step for somebody to start their discovery process. Sometimes people spend their whole lives trying this and that, and then maybe stumbling onto the thing they want to do, and then maybe having the bravery to kind of change and pursue that thing. But if a teacher early on in your experience can help guide that to you and give you that bravery to do it yourself, I think it would live in a much more creative and a much happier world as well.